that you have is trying to access the data, but your database is in a center. Yes, so that's why it is called a centralized database. Make sense, everyone? Yes or no? Because your information is in center, as well as your nodes are accessing from the different locations. So this is called a centralized database, right? So we learn about unstructured, structured, and then central database. What does the central database do? That you have all your information stored at one place, where when you want to access it, you're going to access those information from the one place, and you're not going to have a multiple instance of the information. There is a centralized data structure. Now, what is the limitation you can see or you can imagine? What could be the limitation when you talk about this centralized structure? What could be the limitation with this Lego conceptualization of a centralized data structure? What do you think as a limitation that this guy gets failed? If we get fire inside this guy, then all the information will get lost. Yes or no? Yes or no, everyone? Very good. I see a lot of people participating. Thank you. So that's the limitation with the centralized data structure, right? A centralized database has a limitation. The limitation is that if the centralized server gets crashed or it doesn't work, then you will not be able to access the information. Plus, and what is this? What do you think? What is the difference between this guy and this guy? What do you see a difference between this guy and this guy? Where you have the blues Legos are divided across various clients or the nodes. What do you think? That was structure, and that was centralized, and this is decentralized. Absolutely. The term that we're using is called decentralized. Correct. Or peer-to-peer. Absolutely. So decentralized, that means each and every node that you have in your enterprise architecture has an instance of your database copy. Yes or no? I'm trying to keep it as layman as you can. Does it make sense, everyone? That each and every client that we have will have the copy of the database instance. So the advantage is that if one of the node gets disconnected, though rest of the other nodes will have information with them. Yes or no? Even if we get like this guy has got a fire, let's say this guy's got a fire, or either of the guys are getting fire, that's fine. I mean, rest of the other instances will have a copy of the information they will have. Make sense, everyone? Wonderful. You're really cooperative and interactive audience. Let's take it ahead. Now, what is the problem with the centralized database structure, or even in the decentralized database structure? The current database systems has an administrators, right? Every information that you are doing, you're taking, there is someone else watching your information, or they have rights to give you the access or not, right? You talk about the Facebook, if you talk about the Google, if you talk about your enterprise architecture where your IT people will be giving you an access, you can access this, you can access that, but then there is a designated system authorities, right? And somewhere around the other, they feel or not, they can access all the information if they want. Yes or no? Yes or no? So they have an access, right? So if someone who is not authorized to attend a certain rights and gains access to your database, what happens if someone is able to bypass the security and breach your information, right? This is the biggest pitfall you can say when we are talking about current designated system administration systems that we are using. And most of them are likewise. Like if you think the you're using the Office 365, you're using any of the systems, most of the systems has designated system administrators, right? So don't you all think that these are all limitations are giving a lot of there are a lot of limitations with this traditional database structures, right? What do you think? What all are the limitations with the traditional database system, right? As far as what we have discussed, very layman discussions, guys. I am not interviewing, you are not giving me an answer, it's just your understanding. So what do you think, what is the limitation with these traditional database systems, as far as what you have understood and what you already know? Security is not there, anyone can breach the information, absolutely, it is one of the constraint of the traditional database system. What else we have, guys? Definitely security, limited access, and there is always a someone who can watch your informations for sure, right? Absolutely. Like if someone is saying that like you see there is a lot of discussion going on Facebook and everyone is accessing our data, but I mean, we accept or not, they have rights, they can do anything what they want with the information. So these are all the limitations we are having because of the traditional database systems. Make sense, everyone? Yes or no? Yes or no? Very good. uh, so, and like I said, I mean, if the database instrumental gets crashed, then you don't have any information, right? And let's take a simple example and traditional context to start with. This is a simple banking mortgage process, right? Everybody is aware with the mortgage process, right? What is mortgage is? Yes or no? It's a very simple term you would have definitely learned in your MBAs, right? A mortgage process is a very tedious process, right? We see that most of the contact authorities, whenever you want to or if you want to access those information, whenever some two parties are trying to do the mortgage process, there are multiple parties involved, right? When it starts with the banks, there are legal professional and there are companies. So in a nutshell, there are multiple parties involved in a very simple process like a mortgage as well, right? The lot of third party involved. Make sense? Yes or no? If you see, when you talk about the mortgage process, a very simple process, there are multiple parties involved, right? And because of these multiple parties involved, just an example like a very simple mortgage process, whenever multiple parties are involved, what happens? What happens? The trust get breached. Do you agree or not? A trust or accountability get breached. We are assuming that trust is not breaching, but somewhere down the line, you you cannot count on everyone whom your documentation is passing through. Make sense, everyone? We have seen biggest scams in the banking industry in India as well, right? Some of them are in right now in the some of the web series as well, right? Arshad Mehta and all, right? So this is all the issues that we are having with the traditional because of the traditional database system. The context behind is that whenever multiple parties are involved, you need to pay them. A lot of overhead is there. Even after having the overhead, it is very time consuming, and then always trust get breach, right? Are you all on the same page so far, everyone? Yes or no? Yes or no? A very quick recap. What is the unstructured? Structured database. You cannot rely on the structured database, decentralized database where everybody is having a copy. Even like a simple application like a mortgage, we are relying on a very number of parties where we need to trust them, and there is a huge overhead of multiple parties involved and do the transactions, and then we need to pay them a lot, time consuming, we need to give a lot of money. But at the end of the day, the lot of parties are involved. So even after paying, taking the time, even they're validating, there is a possibility of breach. Yes or no? Are we all good so far? Very good. Perfect. So, so what happens? I mean, these all the issues that we are having. These all are the issues basically. If you talk about the simple use case, these are all the issues we have, like it takes time, it's costing us some money, and it's highly vulnerable, right? uh, it's extremely vulnerable, and then we have a limited participations, and there are a lot of skills also required to process entire process. You need a skilled people, because you are not relying on the system, you are relying on the individuals to authorize the process. Yes or no? Yes or no? Until and unless that guy who sits on the bank write it down or sign it down, or even the auditor who audits your company, the CA basically, right? When until and unless he give his signature, I mean a digital signature basically, for example, though we need to rely on third party, and these are all the issues we are facing because of the traditional system. Yes or no? Are we all agree, or you have a different thought in your mind? We can debate later on, but we cannot debate here. But these all are the issues we have, correct? So the solution is what? All these challenges that we have, and just to be very sure, guys, we haven't discussed about blockchain's definitions. Yes, what is blockchain? Yeah, okay. So just bear with me. I'm just trying to frame you the context, how it can be useful, and then we'll go to the context of the blockchain. Perfect. So these are all the issues we are facing because of the traditional database system. The solution is a blockchain where you have a distributed database, and everybody is holding a copy of your information. So everybody in the network, if you consider these guys have a network, everybody is holding the copy of the information, everybody is having the instance of the blockchain's copy or a ledger's copy with them, right? So there are no database server. If you see this architecture, you don't have a dedicated centralized server there, right? You're not relying on any third party to authorize anyone, but then you're relying on a system to authorize the things. A system is basically called a protocol or an algorithm. Are you all with me so far? Yes or no? A traditional system has a lot of issues, so we are coming to a solution. One of the solution, I would say, is a blockchain where we don't have a centralized server, but we're relying on we are not relying on anyone, we are relying on the system, and system has a protocol or a framework which is called a blockchain, right? So everybody is having the copy. So the this would be the way, right? Everybody is connected with everyone. So everybody in the network is connected with everyone, and they are all bound with the system, and the system is nothing but a trust protocol, which is a blockchain. Make sense, everyone? So it's a simplified, there are basics of blockchain. This is a new database model or a new system where all computer talks to each other, and you don't need a central authority to monitor the things, but you're relying on the framework or a system to provide all the possible processes that you need, such as transaction, monitoring, authority, and whatnot. Make sense, everyone? So blockchain is basically a solution to a current traditional issues that we are facing with the centralized system. Yes or no? Yes or no? Everybody is with me so far? Very good. Very nice. Now, how it all started, right? This guy, we all had heard about the blockchain, right? I'm going to walk you through the entire journey of the blockchain from the beginning, but just to get up the stage, this guy, the individual who had think about the blockchain, the first, how it came in his mind, right? So there was a big banking bubble in the history, where there were a lot of it was the biggest bubble, or the I would say a fraud in the history. It has happened because of the traditional banking processes that we have, and that bubble was happened in 2008. So on to solve that issue of the banking transaction bubble, the guy or a group, I would say a guy or a group with the pseudonym called Satoshi Nakamoto has, in a 2008, he has written a solution of what all issues that banking bubble was having because of the traditional banking system. He has written an open source software or a system which was published in and populated in 2009, but it was all started in 2008, which was called a Bitcoin, right? Yes or no? I hope everybody has a context behind it, right? There was a huge banking bubble in the United States banking industries in 2008, and to solve that banking bubble, the guy or a group, it's still not been identified who is this guy or a group, right? It's not an individual, it's a pseudonym they're using. So just like a pseudonym they're using in the movies, for example, right? So it's a Satoshi Nakamoto who was the guy who has sorted out this issue, and he has written a paper, and the paper was explaining about the underlying technology or a framework which is as big as internet, you can say, was a blockchain, right? So this is all how it got started. You see the issue with the traditional industry, you see the problem it had, and then suddenly there was a big banking bubble, and then the group of people or an individual found a solution, or they have published the solution. That published solution was a Bitcoin, and the underlying technology behind the Bitcoin was nothing but a blockchain. Are you all with me so far? Are you all with me so far? Please hold all your questions. We will definitely have a Q&A session, and 90% of the question will get solved while we are discussing, for sure, right? Now let's just start with, what was the issue? What is the issue? If we start with the basic, let's say this guy, Alice, wants to transfer some information to a Bob. Let's say how the traditional transfer of the information happens, right? So Alice wants to transfer some information to a Bob. Let's say Alice wants to give some money to a Bob. How they can give? So the traditional way of giving the information was that Alice missed Bob and they gave the money on hands to hand, right? So this is one of the option, right? And then what happened? We came up with the internet. So rather than we are giving the physical money in a transfer, we were able to give the information via virtual way, right? So Alice was giving the information to a Bob via virtual manner, right? But because we are not transferring any physical information, there is a huge challenge that because Alice is transferring a virtual money and not the physical one, there is always a possibility that Bob will come and say that am I the only one who is receiving this information? He has always in a question in his mind, right? That because it's a virtual money, Alice can give this money to a multiple people as well, because it's a virtual. We are not transferring anything. These are the possibility. Yes or no? Yes or no? So Bob have a question. Bob is having a question in the mind that Alice is transferring this information to me only, or there are multiple people also. Yes or no? Are you all aligned so far? Yes or no? So traditional information was like we transferring the money physically. Then the way came where we can transfer the money through internet, but where we are not transferring any physical money, we are just transferring the value. So it has a possibility that Alice may come and give digital money that she has to a multiple people. Alice can give information to a Bob. Alice can give information to Dave as well, right? This is the issue with the digital money, right? So they have all decided how we will do this digital transaction and how we'll maintain this information. So they have called a guy called Dave, right? And Dave came and Dave said that I'm going to transact all the information, right? I'll make sure that I'm going to save all the transactions that Alice, Bob, or Bob will give to someone else, and someone else will give to someone else. I will manage everything at my place. So the Dave is nothing but a Dave is a bank, right? Here Dave represents the bank. So bank comes into the picture. Basically any central authority in the traditional system is nothing but a Dave. Are you all understanding, and is it making sense? Yes or no? Yes or no? Any traditional system you pick, fellows, the Dave is there, right? Any traditional you picks up, the Dave is there, right? And Dave is not always Dave, right? He sometimes wants to cheat as well, right? there is not always as uh, authentic as we can rely